Welcome back to The Manual, the podcast where we talk about the stuff most men's podcasts are too afraid to touch. Today's episode is going to be wild, raw, and real. Buckle up.
Welcome back, y'all. Joe, happy Easter.
Don't do it. It's still Good Friday.
When this drops, though, it's Easter. We talk about when this thing's dropping.
I think there's a chance it drops later today.
Good Friday, y'all.
Yeah.
We hope you're having a miserable Good Friday. Joe and I were talking about the difference between suffering and pain earlier. Suffering is resistance to pain. So you get to choose how much suffering you want, depending on your willingness to what you want to experience. So we're talking about today the nice guy. We're wrapping up the nice guy series. I'm the resident nice guy. Joe is my guru. So that's how we're navigating this series. Joe's posted up in the new podcast studio. Joe, I like the look there.
Yep, just got the wall up, the accent wall up a couple days ago. First time sitting in this chair talking to anybody while doing it.
Come on, let's go.
Pretty sweet.
Well, I'm excited to wrap up. So by way of reminder, if you guys have been tracking with us, the nice guy isn't nice, right? The nice guy, as we talked about, is formed from various factors have constructed the personality of the nice guy, and a lot of it is formed from self-protection, wanting to get love and thinking if he behaves a certain way, by seeking approval and validation from others, he'll feel okay. He avoids conflict, avoids suffering, wants to avoid disapproval, and doesn't want to rock the boat. So at his core, he's really disconnected from his authentic self, and he's trying to earn love, earn validation, earn approval rather than living from it. The nice guy has a lot of core, Dr. Robert Glover calls them covert contracts. They're basically these beliefs and these agreements that if I do this, then this, so especially in relationships, if I'm good, then people will love me. Or if I get all of your needs met, then without you ever having to ask, then you're going to get all of my needs met without me ever having to ask. And so this entire journey that we've been going through, from boundaries to self-respect to being decisive, sharing your opinion, thinking about doing something and counting down to one and just doing it, has been about putting to death the nice guy so that you can step into who you really are. And so we're going to bring it home today, just highlighting some key things we talked about from the last 8 or so weeks. And number one, I think you just want to start with taking responsibility. Hopefully you've resonated with this, the nice guy. I think a lot of guys we work with struggle with addiction, really undergirding and have like kind of a victim mindset or a nice guy complex, rather than really stepping into who they are. They live in kind of fear of others, and fear of connection, and fear of rejection. So number one, it starts with taking responsibility, really just owning it. Stop blaming others and start owning where the nice guy has shown up. So hopefully you guys have done some of that in this journey. Joe, just reflecting on the last couple months as we've been going through this, we talked about bravery and decisiveness and being honest, and we talked about enmeshment, and separating yourself from others, and talked about emotionality. What are some things that stood out to you that you want to maybe put a pin in as we bring this final episode to a close?
Yeah, a couple things that you just said there that I think that are worth noting or reinforcing. The first one is that at some point you have to come to the understanding, the belief that these dimensions of who I am, that these ways of behaving, showing up in relationships are defense mechanisms,
Yeah.
are self-protection, and they're no longer serving you. That I think at some point you have to come to the frame of mind and the disposition that this is negative, not to my benefit, and it's not helping
Right.
anyone else.
Right.
Right. And I think that happens in a variety of ways, either patterns in relationships, so a romantic relationship with girlfriend or wife, where you just are in the same cycle of things happening, whether it be you not communicating your needs and then getting resentful, which we've talked about before,
Yeah.
or you having that expectation that I'm doing all this to serve you, but you don't reciprocate, which then creates resentment again. So, like, I think, I mean, you've mentioned resentment a number of times throughout this series, and I think it's really
Hmm.
good to pay attention to when do you feel resentful and what relationships do you experience resentment? Where's that coming from? Is that coming from things that they're doing that are infringing on your boundaries or the expectations you have, or are they things that are coming from you? I think that's really important. I think also a disposition that's really important is to become sensitive, which I think is difficult for men in general to get to this point where you're willing to consider the role that early childhood development and early attachment relationships is manifesting or playing out in adult relationships. I don't think it's something that
Yeah.
many of us think about or want to think about. I think many of us, myself included, to some degree, are forward focused, right? Like, well, I see an issue, I'll solve for that issue, and I move on. And I think we need to give at least, if we're going to do this well, to the point that it has a lasting solution, that we're
Hmm.
willing to ask the question, where is this coming from? Right? And to get curious about that. Not in a, when we talk about in our, the Freedom Group a lot, awareness without judgment, right? Where is this coming from?
Right.
Rather to critique our parents or to critique our childhood, just to be curious and aware of why is this manifesting? Where did this come from? Where was this formed? And what about your past needs to be acknowledged and recognized, processed through, healed, in order to be able to experience that full fruition we're searching for here, where you can experience life as an integrated free man.
Yeah.
And I think it's safe to say that in all of us, that just doing one or the other doesn't work. What do I mean by one or the other? That just doing forward focus, well, I don't need to pay attention to the past. I'll just solve for problems that exist now, come up with a modern solution to that problem, and I'll move on.
Yeah.
And just, oh, I'm just going to spend time in the past. I'm just going to
Right.
look at all these things that happened in my history. And I think the two pitfalls of both approaches in isolation of one another is that in the forward focus, we ignore patterns that are sticky and don't change, even when we give novel solutions to them now. And on the other side, we become victims of our past reality, right? We become stuck in trying to look under every rock of, well, where is the hidden
Right.
brokenness or wound that's creating this problem, right? And so I think there is a role of, you know what, I need to change the way that I'm thinking. And that might be as simple as, I mean, you were talking about pain and suffering off the top of this. It might be as simple as, when I experience resentment, I need to respond to that resentment by thinking this way. I need to say this sentence to me, which frees me from getting into the spiral of resentment where the problem becomes much bigger than it already is. But it also might be necessary that you take stock of, well, where did this cycle begin in my life? And it's very
Right.
likely that that cycle began far earlier than your adult relationships. And to understand what those early relationships weren't giving you helps you understand what you're looking to solve for in your adult life, and then what to do about them. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
It does. No, it's really good. I relate to both indirect over indexing on both, and I would say maybe even for me especially just looking back too much. Like I would be quote in a season of inner healing where I'm just like navel gazing and I'm just like staying in my shit and I just keep looking to where finally it's like this is actually a self-defeating process, and ultimately we've talked about what does it mean to like go back into your story. We don't go back in time, but we need to become aware. We need to look at our story in different ways to do that. I've even when I go home, yeah, when we go home, when you go back home, even as a 40-year-old man, and it's every time I go back, it's less and less. But you know, I feel like I'm back there again, because of the environment, the cues, the external things will kind of trigger it. How my mom says something, how my dad will say something. I will like the inner child. This is what we talk a lot about in our work with the inner child. That's really synonymous with the. I mean, the nice guy was formed really young, right? And so it all just kind of rears its ugly head. I'll look back, you know, at old pictures and like memories will come up, and it's actually really helpful to look back at your story and live right now because your story is showing up in real time. The parts of you that don't feel safe, the parts of you that feel like you're too much, the parts of you that are scared to express an opinion or to have any sort of confrontation or to disagree. Um, are like those emotions, it's all in your autonomic nervous system or in your limbic brain, right? That's where everything is stored, especially at a young age. Our prefrontal cortex, we're never really living out of there. We're living out of our emotional cortex, and things get stored there. And that's why it's so important to know your story and then to pay attention to when is your story showing up right now so that you can get curious, as you're saying, become aware like, wow, I've got a lot of tension in my chest right now. I want to avoid this situation. I don't even want to express what I want or what I need right now. We've been calling it the nice guy. There's a lot of inner child dynamics at play. Um, and so then how do we talked a lot about how okay, then in real time, like what does it look like to grow out of the nice guy? It looks like knowing your story, knowing how he kind of was formed, how you might tend to be agreeable, and then now as you're showing up, when you don't want to be honest, when you don't want to tell the truth, in that moment, it comes down to a few things. I mean, one word, I've been thinking a lot about lately in our phase one of our system, if we could summarize phase one down into one word, for me, it's been willingness. Am I willing to feel everything I'm feeling right now? It's not white knuckling, just like put your hand to the plow and grind forward. But am I willing to feel? Am I willing to show up? Am I willing to tell the truth when everything within me wants to abort? Why? Because I'm scared of rejection. So I just lied to be, quote, nice, to not rock the boat. One thing, and I've learned a ton from being married because Teresa's encouraged me in this, and she knows my default in this. One thing I've just actually learned from her, uh, I think this will connect. But we did when we were early on dating, we did the personality, not the personality test, but the strengths finder thing. And two of her top five, one I think is command. Her number one is command. And then in her top five is harmony. And as we were reading these two, and one of my top five is harmony. I just want to be at peace with everybody. I want you to like me. And the thing is I part of my personality maybe is more prone to being a nice guy, right? In the sense that we're talking about. So I love harmony. I don't want to rock the boat. I want us to all be, I want us to like each other. I want us to all be on the same page. But it's interesting as you read command and harmony, those descriptions in the Strengths Finder, there or that talent theme rather, uh, they're almost diametrically opposed. Like harmony doesn't like conflict, doesn't want to have disagreements, really struggles when people come head to head and there's a group that disagrees. They don't do well in that environment. But command thrives in disagreement, loves having debates. And we read those two and we're like, these cannot be like this is the test must have messed it up. So we actually reached out to Gallup and they said, sorry, it's foolproof. That's accurate. We don't know what they've been like, we don't know what to tell you. We ran this by Mark, who Mark runs our Kingmakers community, and Mark's been pretty well trained in this. He goes, oh, this is freaking awesome. Here's what this means. So basically, Teresa, harmony is the what you operate out of when like it's kind of a trivial thing. Like it doesn't really matter when when you're trying to figure out what to do in an afternoon. If people are disagreeing, you're like, I could go play pickleball, or we could hang out and have a picnic. Doesn't really matter. I could express an opinion if that's helpful, but it doesn't really matter. That's when you live in harmony. And a lot of times it doesn't really matter. Things don't really matter. But if you see that down the road, if we don't engage this right now, if I don't express the truth, if I'm not honest, if I don't insert myself into this situation, down the road, harmony will actually not be there anymore. It'll cause disunity or disharmony. That's when Mark said, Teresa, that's when you step into command and insert yourself and are very direct because for the sake of true harmony and true unity, I'm gonna insert my command. So I've learned a ton from her, realizing that I can tell when I want this false harmony or this false unity that is like the easy path. And that's when the nice guy wants to come up within me. And learning to like, okay, if I don't engage this, um, this is going to cause greater pain for me later. And the nice guy so often is very much okay with that's a future Nick problem. That's a future nice guy problem. I don't want to deal with it now. So a lot of what we've been talking about, a lot of what we've been encouraging you guys in this process is really inserting yourself, realizing is pick your pain now or later, and to crucify the nice guy or to quote kill the nice guy or to really maybe more kinder language integrate him into a true good man is to insert yourself into situations to feel fully all the stuff that's been there a lot of your life and willingly open up to the discomfort of a hard conversation, of sharing your opinion, of setting a boundary. I'm not okay with this. Or saying no, just saying no and not even giving an excuse, and being okay with other people not being okay with where you're at. So that's
I
been a
re-
huge process for me.
yeah, I really liked what you said there about because I was thinking about it right before you said that is what I think we said this maybe last week or the week before, but like what's it costing you?
Yeah,
Like what's the cost and then what's the risk of it staying the same? And both of those questions require some kind of long view. I mean, like
yeah,
what's costing you is like right now, what's it costing me for this pattern or this way of relating to continue to operate the way that it's operating? And then what's the risk of it staying the same is kind of that long view. And I'm just struck by, as you were describing that, and I think you correctly articulated, so this is just a way of reinforcement here and saying
yeah,
it again, is that natural disposition is safety now
right.
versus the long view is that prefrontal cortex, that conscious, thoughtful,
Yeah,
mindful. Well, let's play that out. Like, what
right.
changes if I don't? And so I'm curious. Do you think that's unique to you, or would you say that that is a common threat or risk for the nice guy in general that he gives up future planning or future discernment, future uh yes, like being able to be analytical and forethinking because he's cemented in sort of risk assessment moment to moment now.
Yeah, I think there's probably a lot of dynamics at play. I think certainly that, and I think another big one is that because the nice guy has abandoned, I'll say his true self, he doesn't often know what he wants. He doesn't he hasn't exercised the muscle of sharing an opinion. And so I think he has a phenomenal ability to tell you what he doesn't want. I don't want pain. I don't want confrontation. I don't want to, I don't want this unity. But there's not that. And oftentimes, I think a lot of times the vision he might have is a result of other people's expectations of him. What, maybe it's his parents or others. And so without that true north, without that clear like purpose, which I think a lot of nice guys haven't done the work of who am I? What is like what's significant to me? What are my gifts because of the enmeshment piece? And like, I don't know where I end and you begin. There hasn't been this separation, this leaving of like the home. I mean, yeah, this is so many dynamics at play that he doesn't have that vision. And so if you don't have that vision, it's hard. What the vision does, it gives you purpose to the pain now. Like I see where I'm going and I see what I want to do. And I realize in order to get there, I'm going to have to be disagreeable and I'm going to have to say no to people and I'm going to have to disappoint people. So I think there's a few different things at play. It's the what'd you call it? The what management, the safety management kind of piece. Like I just want
Yeah.
to make sure I'm safe right now. I always
Yep.
want to make sure that's for sure a part of it. And it's because I think it's been a lot of they haven't had self respect. We haven't had boundaries. We've abandoned self a lot of these small decisions throughout that I don't know kind of where I'm going. Um,
Would you
so
say
yeah,
that you have a avoidant or anxious attachment style?
both.
Anxious avoidant.
Yeah,
You
I'm an
can't
anxious
decide.
avoidant. Yeah,
You prefer the
uh,
mix.
yeah. It's and that is one, right? Isn't it? Isn't that what do they call that? I think where you
Ambivalent.
have ambivalent. Yeah, I have to think about how that plays out. Um, like because I mean, I for sure have no problem avoiding, but yeah. Is there something specific behind the question?
Well, just as you're talking, I'm thinking, when this is a callback to an earlier episode in this series where we talked a lot about, or at the very least mentioned, the role of attachment
Yeah.
and attachment theory in the development of the nice guy. And just that stood out as a kind of a core theme of what you were just discussing there is in the pursuit of trying to find a secure attachment, I give up that forethinking
Yeah.
long view of, well, what does a lifelong secure attachment look like? What does it require to develop that for the feeling of security now, which isn't the
Yeah.
same thing, right? And so I think it's another theme in taking stock of the past. Another thing to become aware of is your attachment style. There's awesome resources. I don't know if we threw one out um, in one of the previous podcast descriptions, but you can look up attachment um, quiz on Google and take one free for all of you listening that can help you better understand your attachment style. And that's really helpful information, as much as, if maybe not more than personality, the way personality is influencing this is I am trying to get back to safety and security. And when I try to do that, when things, particularly relationships, feel unstable or insecure, how do I respond
Yeah.
to that? Right? Is it
Yeah.
that anxious attachment? Is it the avoidant attachment? Is it the ambivalent, which is the combination of both, that in different scenarios or sort of at random you can switch in between those two? Um, because both of those attachment styles require exorbitant energy
Yeah.
to try to get back to security, and it's completely absorbed, like you're describing, to the now. What needs to happen now in order for me to restore secure attachment? And oftentimes, again, like we said, and just to reinforce the point, you give up or you risk giving up the long term, deep, restorative, connected relationship, which which I think fundamentally is the core of why do story work. Um,
Yeah.
I I think that this is a risk of uh, only doing habit change, forward thinking. I mean, I think this is a risk of AA or SA approaches. I think this is a risk of only focusing on even just like cognitive behavioral tools, which certainly you and I love. Is really, it gets back to the sole goal of this process is the eradication of bad behavior, rather than my objective here is intimacy, communion,
Yeah.
lasting security that will allow me to step into seasons of upheaval and
Yeah.
maintain my identity, seasons of resistance, disconnection, brokenness, chaos, suffering, etc., and the ability to continue to operate in that environment. And at some point, no, like if it's only tools, and then we're in a season where there aren't as many tools to fall back to, it starts to crumble,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But if you combine the tools, and this is what I think is the genius, and I'm not patting ourselves on the back as much as the benefit in my life of combining tools with the deep self-awareness building work
Yeah.
that I went through when I took up my freedom group process in my own life, is it did liberate me from the compulsive use of pornography and masturbation,
Yeah.
but it also disposed me to the applying all of that knowledge, that self-reflection, that awareness of my state, like you said, the ability to feel and allow yourself to feel all of it, um, to know what to do with it from a tool standpoint of like, okay, this is what I need to give myself, but then also to invite other people into that. Like these are the people I need involved in that process,
Yeah.
and to be able to start to experience life in, I think we talked about this last week, in the four dimensions of communion with God, with myself, with
Yeah.
others, with creation, and having those experiences of, again, what, uh, Andrew Huberman defines addiction is a narrowing of the things that give you pleasure. And so many guys talk about, and I've experienced this myself, of being able to see the world in color, to be able to notice with all of my senses the fulfillment that is possible in fully living in creation. I share
Yeah.
that story in one of our video content pieces in the Freedom Group, of being in the woods with my son on a walk, and a beautiful woman walks past, and there's this natural inclination in me to begin to control my impetus towards beauty in lusting after her, and doing do multiple second looks over my shoulder, and choosing to not do that, and to experience this expansion of my capacity to behold beauty and the vibrancy of the colors around me, and noticing my son singing
Yeah.
praise and worship to the music that I was playing on my phone, and his delight, and just being able to be enwrapped in that experience. Well, there's tools at play there, but there's also the development of the capacity of that the child in me wants to respond and control like this, and re-diverting his attention or leading him in this direction allows me in a mature way to experience everything available to me in all of creation with God, with myself in this moment. That is the fulfillment of that, as much as in contrasting it to, and I've brought this up as well, like the season of time in the hospital with my son, where external uh, fulfillment wasn't available to me, neither in uh, the ability to be able to see scantily clad women in the context I was in, or to be able to behold to behold beauty around me in creation because I'm stuck in this whitewashed tomb of a hospital room. But to be able to have the same capacity in that environment, to be able to, like you said, willfully submit and to experience it as rewarding as much
Yeah.
as to experience it as painful. Um, and I think that's the goal. The goal is to be able to, and then to share that with others, and to have communion as a result of both of those experiences, which I have also experienced in sharing those stories and reflecting on those scenes of having the freedom to share that with others. I've experienced the connection and communion of relationship with others that's provided great depth and benefit to me. And I think again, that's what we're after here.
Yeah.
That to be able to go through life, to go through suffering, and to go through moments of enwrapped beauty, and being immersed in intimate connection with all four of those dimensions, and to experience the kind of fulfillment that God designed us for, that He hardwired into our beings and our nature. And central, I think, in closing of this chapter of the Nice Guys series here, I think what I would really like, and I think one of the central invitations of our work in general, is that it's possible, that rewiring is possible. If you engage the work, if you do the deep work, and you engage the tools, you can be free, and not just learn to cope well with it or successfully manage it in life, but actually to rewire to the point where you can develop that kind of secure attachment in adulthood,
Yeah.
that you can actually not just, well, I have a proclivity to the nice guy, and so this is how I've learned to cope or manage him, but actually
Yeah.
to become the integrated man, to
Yeah.
become the free man, and to realize at some point that one day you wake up and the nice guy is no longer in you.
Yeah.
And there's hope for that, because that's
Yeah.
how He made us.
Totally.
That's how we were created, for the capacity to be able to go through things and then to change in dramatic
Yeah.
and lasting ways that are on the level of, certainly in the spiritual world, in our emotional faculty or capacity, in our physical body, and maybe, I don't want to say more than anything, but most certainly as well, in the way that our neurons work together to create our conscious awareness of
Yeah.
reality, that
That's good.
is possible.
That's good. That's good, Joe. Well, we hope this series has been helpful in revealing yourself to yourself, the parts of you, the nice guys brought awareness. And so maybe just a few questions in closing. Well, one, I'll say the nice guy thrives in isolation, in the dark. And so, but he, as he starts to die as he's brought into the light, you stop hiding. So couple questions just to bring this to a close. So, where do you notice the nice guy pattern in your life, and what relationships is he showing up in where you try to be liked or approved of, and then what parts of you do you notice yourself hiding, and especially in that a lot of times cravings And compulsive behaviors, I mean, this is the seedbed for those things. And where do those hidden parts start showing up in cravings, and these other behaviors? And then what's it cost you? It's really important, I think, a lot of times to take an assessment, to look at how these patterns are actually not serving you and they've actually hurt you, maybe leading even to resentment or passivity, certainly dishonesty, if we've as we've talked a lot about. And then what's one area where you can start telling the truth? What's one situation where you can choose honesty over approval? And I would encourage you to look at those closest relationships to you. Maybe it was with your family, maybe it's with your wife, uh, girlfriend, somebody close to you, or even just some good friends. Start owning your desires. What do you want? Start owning your true self, because we got one life, y'all. Well, it's good to be with you guys in this journey. We're excited for the next step we're going to be going through. We'll let you guys know what that is next week, right, Joe? We
That's
got some
right.
ideas cooking. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, well, hopefully you guys have a great Easter season. We will, if you guys want to hop on a discovery call to hear more about a freedom group, if that's something that would interest you, we'd love to hear a little bit of your story, to share about our process and what's been working for guys. It is freaking encouraging hearing the freedom that guys are getting. We're all in, and we want to build a massive movement to set guys free to reign as good kings in their lives. Check us out at thefreedomgroup.co. See you guys next time. Peace.